Hello everyone and welcome into Going to Attic Space. My name is Jason Boning. I'm the owner of Uni-Serve Air Conditioning in Houston, Texas, where we maintain, repair, and replace heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems for our great customers all across this great city, which we call Space City. Well, today I want to discuss these new refrigerants that are being used in 2025. So what's the deal with these new refrigerants? Are they going to catch on fire in our AC systems up in the attic? Are our houses going to explode? There's a lot of crazy things going around, and I want to take a little bit of time and hopefully set your mind at ease about what is actually going on with these new refrigerants. So, first of all, let me just let you know that for really the past year, our team here at Uni-Serve Air Conditioning has been preparing for these changes. We've attended countless hours of training, we've invested in new tools, and we've even installed several of these new systems now with the new refrigerant, and our team feels very comfortable with them. And so we want to let you know that as long as they are installed and maintained properly, then you really shouldn't have anything to worry about. First off, what's driving these changes? Starting in 2025, the Environmental Protection Agency, or the EPA, requires that the global warming potential, or the GWP, for refrigerants must not be higher than 750. Now, if I'm being honest, I really don't know what that 750 number is. I'm not in tune with the whole testing process and how they actually measure global warming potential. But from my seat that I sit in, that's what I know. 750 is that threshold. And so we cannot use any refrigerants that are higher than 750 when it comes to a GWP. For reference, the previous refrigerant that we've been using, R410A, it has a GWP of 2088. And so it's out the door. We can't use that anymore. Now, real quick, you may be thinking, well, hey, I just got a new system installed and it uses 410A. Do I have to change it? No. If you have an existing system using 410A, don't worry. You can use 410A until that system goes out, and we'll talk a little bit more about that here in a minute. There are now two main refrigerants that are going to be used moving forward. They are R32 and R454B. These two refrigerants are classified as A2L refrigerants. The A means that they are low in toxicity, and the 2L indicates that they are mildly flammable. Now, when I say mildly flammable, I'm sure the word that sticks out is flammable. And I think that's where a lot of the concern and some of the chaos comes from, right? People hear flammable and they're like, oh my goodness, what's happening here? But let's talk about something for a minute. So here in the Houston area, we love to grill out. Okay, so I have a Blackstone out on the patio right now, and sitting right next to it's a bottle of propane. Propane is highly flammable. Here in the Houston area, we have a lot of natural gas, water heaters, gas furnaces. There's natural gas flowing through our house that is very flammable. And so we're used to this. We just really don't think about it a whole lot. But when a change is introduced, then we start to think about it. And so I'm just saying we have these things in our house already. We just have to make sure that the safety features are in place so that it doesn't become a big issue. Now, like I said, A2L, low toxicity, mildly flammable. And my understanding is that they weren't able to find an A1 refrigerant that is lower than the 750 GWP threshold. So 410A is an A1 refrigerant, but it has a high GWP, or higher than what is now allowed. And so my understanding is that they just weren't able to find an A1 refrigerant below that 750 threshold. And so that's when they went to the A2L, or the mildly flammable refrigerants. To put your mind at ease, we here at Uni-Serve Air Conditioning, we're not worried about homes blowing up, at least homes with systems that we install and maintain with these new refrigerants. There's a very low likelihood that these refrigerants will catch on fire to begin with. And there's a lot of new safety features that are in place to help protect against that. Like I said, we've already installed several of these systems, and I can assure you that we are going to follow all the guidelines, all the safety features, so that there aren't any risks involved in terms of things catching fire, blowing up, any of those crazy things that you may be hearing about. Let's take a minute and discuss some of the flammability concerns, though. Let's look at some specific numbers here with respect to R32. R32 has a lower flammable limit of 13.8% and an upper flammable limit of 29.9%. In other words, for the refrigerant to be flammable, the concentration of that refrigerant in the air must be between about 14 and 30%. If it's on the lower side, then it's going to be too lean, or if it's on the higher side, it's going to be too rich for flammability. So it's kind of a small window in there where we have those flammability concerns. Also, R32 has an auto ignition temperature of 986 degrees. Natural gas, for comparison, has an auto ignition temperature of 124 degrees. All right, so that's what a lot of us have here in the Houston area. We have a lot of natural gas in our homes, and it has a lot lower auto ignition temperature. So I'm not saying it shouldn't be a concern, but I'm just saying it's some of those concerns are already there, okay? And so we just got to continue to make sure that those safety features are in place. And so that's my main goal with sharing these numbers, is that even if there is, say you do have this new refrigerant in your AC system and there is some type of leak in your attic and you got refrigerant being leaking into your attic there, that the conditions must be just right for it to ignite and have a flame propagate. And so once again, we just want to share these numbers to kind of set your mind at ease. And even if there was a leak, there'd be sensors in place on these new systems to be able to detect that. Okay, moving on. Why are there two refrigerants? That's something we hear a lot. So there's R32 and R454B. So like I said, the works have been in place for a while now in terms of all of manufacturers determining which refrigerants they're going to go with. They had to re-engineer, redesign, retool their factories to produce this equipment. So they've been working on this for multiple years. And each equipment manufacturer was able to choose which refrigerant they wanted to go with. And there's primarily two that meet all the requirements needed, the main one being the low GWP number there. All of the Daikin products, so that includes the Daikin brand, Amana brand, and Goodman, are using the R32 refrigerant. Quick side note, if you're not aware, where the Astros play is now sponsored by Daikin. It's now Daikin Park. And so a big change. So we're here at Uni-Serve Air Conditioning, we're pretty excited about that. I know a lot of people are like, oh, it'll always be Minute Maid Park to us, which is fine. We completely understand. But we hope that it just lets more people know about the Daikin products. And Amana is one of the brands that we sell, Amana and Goodman. And so those are owned by Daikin. So once again, Daikin products, they are using the R32 refrigerant, and pretty much all the other brands. So American Standard, we also sell a lot of American Standard, they are using R454B. A couple notes on those. R32 is what we call a pure refrigerant. So R32, it's just R32. R454B, on the other hand, it's made up of 69% of R32 and 31% R1234YF. So it's a mixture, and really the goal there with R454B is to get that GWP below 500. And there's a lot of talk about that GWP number changing from 750 to 500 one day. And I'm not sure, but we've heard a lot of different things, but there's no legislation that's currently in place that we are aware of to change that GWP. And as I mentioned before, it takes years for all of that to change. And so there's nothing right now in terms of legislation to change that, but it could one day. We don't know. It's all speculation at this point. So as far as mixtures go, R410A, it's actually a mixture. It's actually 50% R32 and 50% R125. So R32 has actually been used in the US as a mixture in 410A. So it's not something that is completely new. R32 has also been used in other countries around the world since 2012. Daikin they have a corporate location in Japan. They also have their North American headquarters right here in the Houston area. But they're the world's largest AC manufacturer, and they've been using R32 in other countries around the world since 2012. And actually some other manufacturers, some other brands have been using R32 in other countries around the world as well. But here in the US, for whatever reason, some of them are going to be using R454B. And I think R32 has an open patent. So in my opinion, from reading some of the stuff online, I'm not a lawyer by any means, but in my opinion, it seems like R32 has an open patent. It's open for use. Anybody can make it and distribute it. I do think, in my opinion, it seems like R1234YF does have a patent, and but I'm not going to get in too deep into that. So, but anyways, that's kind of a quick overview there of R32 and R454B. Now, to conclude here, let's talk about what if you already have a 410A system? What if you have a system that's relatively new that uses R410A? So the good news is that if it's still under warranty, meaning that there's a parts warranty, then if you have any issues, those parts are still going to be under warranty. The manufacturer is still required to make those warranty parts. So if you have a leak in the evaporator coil and it's under warranty, they have to provide a new evaporator coil under warranty. Same thing, a compressor goes out, they need to provide a new compressor that is that 410A compressor. And so hopefully that sets your mind at ease there. Now, if it's not under warranty, there can be some tricky things there. So let's say that you have to replace your condenser. So say you have a 410A system, and let's say you even replace the evaporator coil just recently and it's still fairly new, but the condenser goes out. So the condenser is really the driver of which refrigerant is used, because the compressor is right there in the middle of the condenser, and that whole design, it really, the refrigerant is a major part of that design. So let's say that your condenser goes out, you're also going to have to replace that evaporator coil. The reason is because with these new refrigerants, it requires sensors in the evaporator coil to detect leaks. So if you replace your condenser, you're also going to have to replace that evaporator coil up in the attic. And if it's a gas system, we're going to have to put what's called a mitigation control board on that furnace, which, just long story short there, it's able to tie in all these safety sensors. Okay, that's really what it is. So if your furnace is still newer, we can actually still use that furnace. We just have to install that new board. So it's a little bit more expensive there, but we can reuse that furnace if it's in good shape. If the whole system is bad, then we just replace the whole system. But once again, if you do have a newer evaporator coil and you have to replace that condenser, that's where it's going to hurt a little bit, because we have to replace that evaporator coil as well. If it's just your furnace, if just your furnace goes out, you can just do a furnace replacement. If just the coil goes out but it's not under warranty, that's where it may get a little bit tricky, and we just have to look at it on a case-by-case basis. But hopefully that sheds a little more light into what is going on here with these refrigerant changes. And so we want to put your mind at ease, and we'd love to help you out. If you have any questions, reach out to us, and we'd be happy to walk you through any questions that you may have related to these new refrigerants. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.